Okay, so today we're going to look at notifications within Imigo, which is a really useful feature to use the data that you've put into Imigo. So notifications is the group name that we've given to messages, tasks, and reminders linked to something within Imigo. So I'm going to look at different types of notifications. So I'm going to look at those in a little bit more detail. They do behave slightly differently. I'm going to look at how to set them up. How can you make them? Who can get them and how? What do we mean by a trigger? So what is that? What do we mean by something that can set off a notification automatically? And then I'm going to give a few examples of how they're useful, what I think some really good uses of them are. And if we have time at the end, if you want to share how you're using notifications or any best practices that you find or challenges, then we can go ahead and do that. If you want to interrupt me, that's fine. I'm open to interruptions. You'll just need to unmute yourself and speak. Otherwise, you can chat into the chat window below the attendees there. And at the end, I'll go back and read out any questions. If I haven't answered them, I'll try and do that at that stage. Okay, so you can access notifications in two different places. Looking at the home page over here, we can see a little icon for notifications. I could click on that, or over here at the top, and I would be taken into a notifications library. So like an inbox of notifications that I have received about various cases or companies or applicants within Imigo. I can work with this like an inbox. So I can filter here and I can say, maybe I only want to see messages, or I only want to see tasks for the day. So it's a good place to go in the morning and have a look at, what's been sent, what have I received. When you're in this little kind of notifications inbox, you'll be able to open and close any notifications that you received by clicking on the open or close buttons. You can also link back into the case or the company or the report that the notification has been set on over here. Okay. The other place to access a notification is directly in the object that you're interested in. So in the case or in the report or in the fee that you want to be looking at. I'm going to take cases as an example. So I'm looking at my case homepage, and I think I'll choose Sandra Sparkles just because I like her name. So I'm going to go into her case over here. It's booted me out. I'm just going to log in again. And I'm going to go into her case. And the way I can see notifications in her case is going to be similar regardless of whether I am in a report or a fee or anything, or a company. The place that you find it will be in a similar location. So I'm just going to go back into the case over here. Going to take a minute or two to load up. And I'm going to scroll down on the left-hand side, and there is going to be a little section that says notifications. It looks like the screen is a little bit slower for you, so I'm just going to pause for a second or two so you can catch up. I think having the GoToMeeting on just makes it a little bit delayed for you to be able to see it. I'm looking at the audience view, and it looks like you still can't see the case, so let's give Sandra a second or two to reveal herself to us. Okay, it looks like it's sharing now. I'm hoping you can see it. So I've gone into my case. I'm looking at Sandra Sparkle's case to Australia. And at the side over here, I'm scrolling down and I can see a little notifications tab at the side. So these are notifications pertaining to this case. If I would have something that had been set and had been unread, I would have a little icon over here that would be an envelope. Okay, and I'd be able to go and see, oh, I've got a notification that hasn't been read. So I've clicked on the notifications. As I said, whether you're in a company or a report or a fee, you're always going to go down on the left-hand side and find this. And then I can see over here a little inbox where I would have any notifications that had been sent to me about this case would be tracked over here. And then anything that had been sent out or set up to be sent out would be over here in the outgoing. Okay. So those are the two different ways of where you're going to find your notifications or where you're going to be working with those. And I'll look at them both in a little bit more detail and then see if you have any questions. What's also quite nice to know is we've got this little help section over here. Notifications is a relatively complex feature of Imigo. It can do quite a lot of clever things. And so we've put some additional information in this help button. If you click on it, you'll have a little pop-up window that shows up over here. And it's got some information about the differences between the notifications and then some variable expansion, which we'll talk about later. Just know that it is here, and you can go ahead and click on that and read through it if you'd like to when you're setting them up. It's important to understand the way different types of notifications behave to use them effectively. So a message, a task, and a reminder are slightly different in the way that they operate within Imigo. The names are clues as to how they work. So a message is a one-off notification about something that's happened. They're designed to be read, replied to, and deleted. So they won't repeat and they won't affect any other process flow steps or anything in Imigo. So generally, I would use a message to tell someone else about something that's happened or something that's going to happen. For example, an application has been filed, or a case has been completed and ready to close, or that a document is about to expire. So a message is very similar to a normal email, except that it's automatically linked back into Imigo. It's secure. It can be set up in advance or be triggered by an event, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then we'll have a look at tasks. So tasks are different to messages in that they can be marked as started and done, and they can be set to repeat until done at various intervals. So for example, as a manager, you could set a consultant to do a task by having a notification arrive in their inbox every day, which will only stop when they mark that task as done. So a task would be used if you're asking somebody to do something. So you could have a task set up to go maybe to your accounts team every time a fee in a case is marked as ready to invoice, saying, please go ahead and invoice the client, and that will go out until they've marked done to stop the task. Tasks can also be triggered by event, and by events like step can start, and depending on what the event is, marking it started or done can automatically feed back into Imigo. So we're going to look at how using tasks can work back into the case process flow without you opening the case. So that's a little bit different between tasks and messages. And then finally, a reminder is a notification which can be set to repeat, like an Outlook reminder. So unlike with tasks, there's no done option on a reminder. It's just going to keep on repeating until it's turned off. So that's something that you would have if you're reminding people about recurring events like conference calls or monthly reports that you want to pull. A couple of people have said that the screen has frozen. I think that's just because I'm not doing much on the screen. I wanted to just explain the background about the different types of notifications that we have. What I'll do now is I'll actually I'm going to click on this little plus new notification, so how to set up a new notification. And you can see I've got a pop-up window over here. I'm hoping that the audience view has changed slightly. You should have a pop-up window on your screen. Looks like something's happening. Some people are saying things are happening. That's all good news. Okay, so for tasks and reminders, you can set up a repeat. Tasks can work back into the Imigo workflow, and messages are designed to be one-off notifications. All of these will be tracked within Imigo, so all of these you'll be able to see within Imigo. The way that you set up a notification is the same, regardless of whether it is for one case, so an individual, or for a whole bunch of cases, so a group notification or a factory. The difference is just where you set it. So in the case, you would go into the notifications. I've clicked on Add New Notification, and this pop-up window shows up. The same pop-up window would show up if I would be setting up a notification factory, and we'll look at that in a second. So the first thing you need to do over here is choose who to send your notification to. So the individuals box up at the top here will have the names of all of your colleagues with Imigo accounts, as well as any additional users, so any HR contacts, supplier contacts, or applicants who have access to this object, so to this case, and are Imigo users. Okay, so you can here select somebody you'd like to send a message to. If you'd like to select more than one person, you can just control and click. So maybe you want to send it to your direct manager, and maybe to a colleague, you want to inform them of something that has happened. The classes box here would mean groups of people. So you can send to all consultants within your company, all consultants who have access to this case. So some of you may work with a senior consultant or a junior consultant or a lawyer and a paralegal on them. They might both be listed on a case. And this is a way of sending to both of them at the same time. All users who can see this case, in this case, the notification would go to anybody who has access to this case, including HR, applicants, supplier contacts, if you've given them access and set them up as Emigo users, or the applicant on this case. The applicant would also show up over here if they were listed as an Emigo user. Okay, so we've chosen who to send it to. Now we've looked at the differences between the types of messages, so we're clear on what type of notification we're setting up. I'm going to set up a message here in this example. Now we can tell Emigo when the recipient should get this note. Okay, so over here in the when, we'll have a drop-down menu, and you can set tasks or messages to be sent immediately. That will be the default. You can choose a specific date and time that you want this to go out. So if I choose on date from the when drop down, over here a date calendar has opened up, and I can then choose a date and a time to send this message out. So for example, if I know that somebody is entering France on a particular day, and I want to be sure to get a copy of their Schengen visa stamp when they enter the country, I could set up a message in advance to go out on the date of travel either to them, if there are an Emigo user with access, saying, hey, please send me a copy of your visa stamp, or I could send a reminder out to myself saying, please go ahead and check for a copy of the visa stamp and upload that. Okay, so that's setting it for a date. Finally, what I can do, and this is where it gets quite clever, is I can set a message to be triggered by a specific event, which I can choose from here. So I can choose a message to go out on the date that the application has been submitted, and maybe I want to send this to my manager, and I can say, this application has now been submitted. I'm going to be billing shortly. This is a VIP case, so I just wanted to keep you informed so that my manager has an overview of when this application is submitted. So I'm setting something up in advance, and only when the case details, so I'm going to go into the case here, only when this case status over here has been edited and changed to application submitted will my message go out. So I'm setting it in advance, and I'm wanting that message to go out and for it to be triggered by an event within Emigo. Okay. Finally, we can have a look at the repeats. So over here, if I choose a task, I will have the option of repeating that task. I can either say no repeat, so I just want to send a straightforward task, or I can have the task repeat every day, every week, every couple of weeks until it's been marked off as done by the person that I'm sending it out to. Likewise with the reminder, if I choose as a reminder, I will need to choose a date to send that reminder, either immediately on a specific calendar date, and then I'll need to choose my repeat for that reminder. Okay. The email options refers to how I'm going to send this notification. So I've got a drop-down menu here as well, and I can choose from 3 options of how to send the notification. Either no email, so it's not going to go to any external email address. It's going to stay within Emigo, and it's going to appear in the recipient's notifications inbox only, the one that we had a look at the beginning of the call. So this is the most secure form of message, but it relies on the recipient logging into Emigo and being a regular user. So for your colleagues or people who are in Emigo every day, we can go ahead and use that. Florence, you're asking a question. And it looks like you're chatting into the chat window and you're asking a question about, just scrolling through the coffee pots, possible to send a reminder on a due date every month. So what you can do, Florence, is you can say, I want to set up a recurring reminder. I want to send it on, for example, the 10th of February at 4 o'clock, and I want to send it every 4 weeks thereafter. Does that answer the question? Is that what you're looking for? Or does it need to be a different day every month? Hopefully that works. Okay, so we said no email is you're staying within Emigo. if you're sending your notification as a notify only, the recipient will get an email to an external email address, so Outlook or Yahoo or something, but it will contain a link to take them back into the secure message in Imigo. So it's just going to say, hey, Mr. Smith, you've got a message. Please log on the link to go ahead and read it. So the message will still remain within Imigo. And lastly, the full text option over here means that the whole email, the whole notification is going to go out to an external email address like an Outlook or a Gmail, but only if that person is set up as a user in Imigo. So messages sent within Imigo are very well protected, very secure. Emails are usually not encrypted, so just bear that in mind when you're choosing how to send it out here. Okay, so now I would enter the text that I want to send into the comment box. So I'm going to just pretend that John is my manager. I am going to send a message on the case completed. And I'm going to enter the text over here saying this case has been completed. You can notice that I'm using over here, I'm using some funny words. And that is because Imigo has the capability for variable expansion. So I can put in these words and it will automatically pull that information from Imigo and stick it in here. So it'll put in Sandra Sparkle's name and it'll put in Australia for host country, which is quite useful when you're setting up group notifications and you want to personalize each email. Okay, and you can see that we had a look at the pop-up out here with the help section, and all the variable expansion that we have is in here. So you can keep that out and copy and paste if you're wanting to make an email and use these variables over here. Okay, so I'm going to save that. I'm just actually going to send it to myself. And you'll be able to see that it's stored now in the outgoing messages, and it will only send out at the point that the case status has been marked as case completed. So it's not going out right away. It's going to be triggered by the case status changing to case completed. Here I'm going to diverge slightly for a handy tip. Something that I was thinking about on this call is that I know some of our clients don't feel comfortable with giving Imigo access to their own clients. So you haven't given your clients access to go in and look at cases or look at companies. And so this feature of being able to send a full text email out to clients is not something you can use at the moment. The workaround to this would be either, create emails and send them to your own consultants for them to copy and paste and send out. Or what you could do is set up your client as a user, but make them inactive so that they would get the message. They would be able to get the full text email sent out from Imigo. But when they click on that link to take them into the case, it will ask them for a username and a password, which obviously they don't have. So that is a possibility. It's a workaround if you don't want to give full access to your clients. And it's just something that I thought I'd mention here in case you want to think about it. Okay, another thing over here is that notifications take up to about 15 minutes to process. So if you're experimenting with sending yourself message reminders or sending them to colleagues, just hang on, wait a few minutes. It refreshes every 15 minutes unless you go in and kind of update and do a send and receive automatically. So there's a table of specific events that can automatically cause a notification to be sent in the user manual. I think it's pages 68 and 69. So you can have a look at that after the call. Let us know if you want any help in setting notifications up being triggered by specific events. There are some specific triggers on the case level that I wanted to look at in detail because they can be really useful. I'm going to go into the notifications inbox now. You can see over here, I've finished with this notification that I've set for Sandra Sparkles. It's saved over here. It's going to go out at the point that I change my case status to case completed to my manager saying, hey, this is done. Can I go ahead and archive the case? Now I'm going to go into my notifications inbox over here. So I'm clicking notifications at the top. And what I can see here is all the notifications that I have received, messages, tasks, and reminders. As we said, we can filter those, we can work with those. And then what I can see is a button at the top saying add new notification factory. Looks like the screen is slowed down again. So I'm just going to give it a second. I'm clicking on the button at the top, says notification factories. and I'm going to go into a window that has any existing notification factory set up, so anything that anyone in my company has set up already for us. And if I want to set up a new one, I can click on over here, add new notification factory. So always the plus sign at the top. And then I will be able to choose something that I want to set up a notification factory on. So a notification factory, like we mentioned at the beginning, is the ability to set up a notification on more than one thing at a time. So not just one case or not just one company, but maybe all cases for a particular client, or all cases within the company, or all cases for a particular consultant. So this is the ability to set something up for a group of cases or applicants or companies. Okay. I'm going to choose cases. I'm going to set up a case notification. I'm going to go in here. And then I need to give my notification factory a name. I'm going to say ABC cases. I can add in a description over here. I don't have to. So the name is compulsory. The description is optional. Just makes it a little bit easier to see what you're talking about when you look at that initial table. And then over here in actions, I need to choose what I want to apply this notification factory to. So do I want to have it for all cases that are currently in the system and any cases we're going to add in, existing and future? That's probably the one you're going to use the most often. Do I want to have this for existing cases that are in the system only? Do I want to have this for future cases only, so cases that I'm going to add in after I put this notification factory together? Or do I want this factory to apply only to those ones specified by the questionnaire? So questionnaires and factories can work together in quite a clever way. I'm not going to go through it here because I'm worried that we're going to run out of time. If you do want to chat to me about notifications and questionnaires working together, and you're giving your clients access to go ahead and initiate cases online, so using the online questionnaires, just send me an email afterwards and we can set up a separate time to talk. Okay, so usually you're going to say, I want this to apply to my existing cases and any future ones, and I'm going to save that. I can now go down, and like in other places that we've seen within Imigo, I'm now able to go in and build in detail, so I can add filters around what I want my notification factory to be about. So in my filters, I can say, maybe I want it to be for all consultants. Maybe I don't want it to be for closed cases, only active cases. Maybe I only want it to be for specific companies. So for this one, we're talking about ABC. Maybe I only want ABC companies to get this specific email, or maybe they've asked for some specific emails to be set up. They want to get notifications at particular times. So I'm choosing only my ABC companies, and I'm saving. And then I'm going to go down and set up my notification. So again, on the left-hand side, I can see my little notifications tab. I'm going to click on that, and it's going to take me into a window that looked very similar to what we had before, except there's no inbox and outbox. There's just the possibility to set up a new notification. So I'm going to add that, and I'm going to have my pop-up window that is very similar to what I had before. Now, because I'm in cases, I have these options as events to set a notification up on. If I would be in companies, if I would be in applicants, I would have different trigger events showing up here. Okay. So there are a few specific triggers on the case level that I wanted to mention in detail because they can be really useful. Number one is the issued document expiry soon. So obviously, one of the main things that we're using a case management software for is to be able to track expiration dates, to get reminders, to remind our clients, to ask them if they want us to process any renewals or deregistrations. Okay, so I can set that up for all ABC cases, all ABC companies, by saying, I want to know when an issued document is coming up for expiration. I want to send that to myself, or maybe I want to send it to a specific consultant that's handling ABC companies. And I wanted to go as a message. Maybe I wanted to stay within Imigo, and I'm going to send a message here saying, check if client approves renewal, and go ahead. Okay, so now I'm setting up a message at the point that the issued document reaches expiry soon, to go ahead and send a message out to me saying, check if the client approves the renewal. Okay, what do we mean by soon? Within your case, you've got that table of the issued documents. And next to the issued documents, you've got that renewal lead time of often it's 3 months, sometimes 4 months, sometimes a week. That is the point that Imigo will see, okay, soon it's coming up for renewal, coming up for expiration, and it will send you a reminder. If nothing has been marked there, but it is possible for the document to be renewed, Imigo will default to a 6 month prior to the expiration reminder out to you. Okay, so the notification will either send out 6 months before the expiration date or however months have been set up for the renewal reminder in the document itself. And then additional notifications will be sent as the expiry date approaches, unless you delete this. So every month, and then 2 weeks in advance, and then 1 week in advance, and then 1 day in advance, unless you've gone ahead and deleted the message or marked a task off as done. Okay, so this is a really useful thing to do. You can do that for specific clients, you can do that for all of your clients, and you can set that up in the notification factories. Another very useful event trigger is in the drop-down menu over here. You can see the last one over here is fee ready to invoice. If I choose to send a message or a task at this point, it will correlate to the fees section in my case. So you've got your individual fees, you can pull them through, and then you can mark them off as quotation approved, quotation seen by the client. And you can also have a case status, a fee status per fee saying fee ready to invoice. And once you mark that ready to invoice, if you have a notification like this set up, you can be sending a message internally to an accounts team or to a manager saying, this fee has been marked ready to invoice. You don't have to separately let them know or call them or email them. Imigo will automatically send them a message saying, fee for this in this case has been marked ready to invoice. Please invoice the client. It will also tell them if there are other fees on the case that have reached the ready to invoice stage. And if the notification is a task, so if you set this up as a task, it can feed back information into Imigo. And so if you mark it as done, it will update that fee status in the case fees tab to invoiced. Okay, so that's also a really clever little event that can make life a little bit easier. Lastly, I'm going to look at setting yourself a task list by using these notifications. So if, for example, you want to use this the when and use a step can start, and you set yourself a task every time a step can start. That means a message will be sent, a task will be sent to the recipient whenever a step in the process flow can be started. So when any necessary pre-steps have been completed. So if we would have looked at Sandra Sparkle's workflow in her process, and it says gather documents, and it says file application, and it says entry to Australia, once a task is marked off as done, if another task can be started, it would send a message to me or to whoever I've set it for saying next step can be started. So the next task can be started, entry to Australia can be started. And if I then mark that task as done within the message, so within my notifications inbox, it will feed back the information into Sandra Sparkle's case and change the status for that process step to done, and then send me a task list, a task for the next step that can happen. So this is a way of creating an interactive task list for yourself that maybe at the end of the day, you could go in and look through your notifications. You could filter, look at tasks only, see what you've done or what you started that day, and then just click on those, and it'll feed back into the case process steps and automatically update those without you going into the case. Okay, so there are a few others events that can act as triggers within Imigo. You can use these as clues. You can go in and have a look through the user manual. I won't go through all of them, but hopefully it's clearer to see how these triggers work within Imigo. Okay, so I'm in notification factories here. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about once you've set the notification up. So if I set up a notification for all ABC cases, what will happen is I'll save it here. I'll then be able to see it in my notification factories homepage. So in that homepage that we had a look at the beginning, where I can see anything that's been set up and listed. And what will then happen is any notification set up for ABC cases would then also show automatically in the cases that they're in. So when I go into my cases, if I go into an ABC case, and I'm going to do that now, I'm just clicking on cases, and I'm going to go into a case for, I think I'll check Tony's case. I think he's going to the UK. I'm just going to go into that. And you can see when I go down to the notifications on the left-hand side here, and I click on that, it's just a little bit slow, so I'm waiting for it. Should be a few more minutes. By minutes, I mean seconds. Waiting for minutes always just seems like an eternity, doesn't it, when you're used to working at a relatively fast pace. So it's showing up on my screen now, but it looks like it isn't showing up on your screen yet. Let me know once it does. What I want to show you is that if I set up a notification factories in the factory section, that will pull through to all ABC cases. If I then don't want to have a particular email that has been automatically set up, but maybe it doesn't relate to this case, so maybe this case I'm actually not going to invoice because it was cancelled, then I can delete the email from that notification. So I can delete. You can see I'm in the notifications here. I can say, actually, this one that's been set up automatically, I don't need to have here because there's no issue document. So I can go ahead and delete that. So it will automatically pull up anything that has been set as a factory. And then if I need to delete in individual ABC cases, I can do that, and it won't affect the factory. However, if I delete a factory, it will affect all the cases that that factory has been made for, if that makes sense. Okay, so edits and tweaks for a specific case or applicant can be made here. Okay, so now kind of moving on from the deletion, a question that's come up a couple of times is, how do I make them stop? So it's great to set them up. It's wonderful to use them. It makes life a little bit easier. But at some stage, maybe you want to stop getting that task. You want to stop getting that reminder. So it's a question that's come up before, is how do I stop a task or reminder from repeating? In order to do that, one of the following has to be done. So either the task has to be marked as done. So I'm in my notifications inbox here, and I can see all the messages and tasks and reminders that have been sent to me and set on various cases. And I can see in a task, I've got the possibility to mark something off as started or done. I can see your screen is lagging a little bit behind, so I'm just waiting for it. Okay, I think we've caught up now. So over here, you can see a task has been set for Peter Piper over here. The step notification of vacancy can be started. If I mark this as done, this task will not repeat. Okay, so this is one option of getting rid of a task. You mark it as done, hopefully, once you've actually done it. The other option is when you set up a task, you have the option of selecting no repeat in the pop-out window for when. So you either select no repeat or repeat until done every day or repeat until done every week. So if you select no repeat, it's only going to ever send out once. It will not keep on coming. The other thing you can do is you can adjust the event that is triggering the task. So for example, maybe we have a task set for document expiration coming up soon. It's been triggered because the document is within 3 months of expiration date. The task has started coming to you. If you would then go in and adjust the expiration date, maybe you have a new document, and so you then adjust the passport expiration date to 10 years in the future, that task will now no longer be triggered. It's no longer document expiration coming up soon. I probably wouldn't work like that. I would rather stop the task and add a new document in, but it is a possibility of working with it. The last thing you can do, obviously, is go in and delete the original notification. So delete the task or delete the reminder that you don't want to get anymore. Okay, so you go into the task or wherever the origin of the task or the reminder that's repeating and coming to you again and again, and you go ahead and delete the origin of it. So not delete your receipt of it, but go ahead and delete the original place where it was set up. Okay, one tip here, if you want to set up emails or tasks for cases and you don't want them to carry on once that case is completed or cancelled or closed, you can select that in the case filters. Obviously, don't do that if you're setting up document expiration factories, but if you do want to have emails that then stop when the case is marked as completed, then you can select that in the filters when making your factory. Okay, I am going to stop here. I don't think I can see any more questions. Florence, you're saying, okay, I see what you're saying. It's going to, the end of the day, 4 weeks is not exactly every month, so it won't be the same as billing every 25th of the month, for example. Yes, you're right. That's something I can note. So see if you want to, I know when you set up direct debits on the bank and things like that, you can say select the same date or select last day of the month or something like that. So I can see if we can add those into the to the calendar for tasks or reminders. And then I think, Anjana, you had a message over here. And you're saying an automatic notification can be sent to a client user on the completion of a process step. Yes, you can do that. And you can do that either for one specific case, or maybe the client wants to know for every single case, every single step. Once that step is completed, you can set that up for them. But the client has to be an Imigo user. So the client has to have an Imigo username and access through that, and then access to whatever cases you want to send them automatic notifications on. And Florence is saying over here, you're not a pain. And yes, I think that's a good idea. It's not something you can do at the moment, but I will note it down. I think it's useful to be able to distinguish dates like that. So, for example, the 25th of every month. Okay, Mark has a question. Can notifications be copied from one case to another? No, you can't copy them from one case to another. What I would do in the example that you're talking about, so if you want to have a notification on all of your cases, or maybe all cases for a particular company, you would go ahead and you would set up a notification factory and then say, for all of these clients, I want this and this to happen, or for this particular client, I want these and these emails to go out. And what's also quite useful to know is once you have set up a notification factory, and you've said what the filters are, so what the parameters are for that factory, you can set up multiple notifications. So maybe a client wants to know when an application is submitted, and they also want to know when a case has been completed, and it's the same client and the same kind of filter parameters. You can just carry on and set up more than one notification in that one factory. Hope that answers that question. Okay. Marianne is saying, can I add a notification to a closed case? Yes, you can. So, for example, if you want to set up document expiration messages, and you want to include closed cases or past cases to that, if you choose, when we're in the notification factories, if you would choose apply to existing and to future, that would go ahead and send out to any current cases that you already have in the system and any ones that you'll add in the future. Okay, Anjana, you have a question. The possible options were different case statuses. I'm not sure what the question was. Let me go back up and have a look what you were saying. an automatic notification on completion of a process step. Okay, so I'm going to go into the notification factories and I'm just going to show you the drop-down menu. And you'll see that one of them is on completion of process step, and that means every single step. So it's quite a lot of emails that you're going to be getting, which might be nice if, for example, you're training a junior consultant and maybe you as a manager want to be aware of how their case is progressing. You could set something up like that for them. So I'm just going to go into that pop-up window and show you what the different drop-down options are for, let me just mute over here and see if I can get a pop-up window for you. It's not connecting now. Let me see if I can go back and just show you the event triggers there. No, it's not working for me, Anjana. If you want to have a look at them, I can send you a separate email afterwards and show you which one I'm talking about so that you can have emails sent out at every completion. Okay, and then got a few more. Pa is asking if there's something wrong if the progress column is not showing any color. So you're talking about your case statuses, and when you're on the case homepage, you're looking and you're seeing there's nothing happening in the progress bar, so it's not yellow or green or red. It's not anything wrong. It means that there are no steps in that process. So it either hasn't had a template with various process flow steps in it, or it hasn't been, you haven't used an Imiguru process, and there's basically nothing in there. So the process tab, when you look at the case, there'll be no step 1, gather documents, step 2. So there's nothing for it to read and say, yes, we're progressing through the case. So maybe maybe you have an inquiry, in which case maybe you wouldn't have any steps that you're working through. It's not necessarily wrong, but it just means you've got no step 1, step 2, step 3 in that process section within the case. Okay, some people saying thank you. It looks like I've answered some question. And Mariana is saying it has to be in the notification factory. So you can set up notifications from those two different places. You either set them up directly in the case, but then it will be a notification about that case only. So it will be a message for that case only, for Sandra Sparkles going to Australia only. If you want to set up a message that relates to more than one case at the same time, you'll have to do it through the factory. Okay, hope that answers that question. Okay, guys, any more questions? People saying thank you. That's wonderful. I hope I've answered some questions. If you do want to share anything, the way that you're using them, what you found effective, what you found challenging, I think we've got 1 more minute if you want to type something in there. Otherwise, the next topic that we'll look at in a little bit more detail is creating template processes. So if you want to make a process that we don't have in Imiguru, you're not able to pull through, you want to make something specific, for example, a renewal or a deregistration, or maybe you want to have a process for client implementation or something like that. How do you make a template? How do you use those effectively? And so that will be the next topic, and we'll look at that in late March. We'll send out an email before that so that you can sign up, and I look forward to speaking to you then. Thanks everyone for the time, and I hope you have a wonderful Tuesday, evening, morning, wherever you are, depending on the day. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.